Kicked out of ex-Moz for being just a plumber. I cut my sister's law school payments. Now she's begging and broke. Alright, so I've been holding on to this story for a long time, trying to figure out where to even start talking about this whole mess. I guess I should tell you a bit about myself first. I'm 32, single, and I run my own plumbing business. Yeah, I know it's not the fanciest job, according to some folks, including my family, but honestly, I make good money, and I actually like what I do. There's something satisfying about fixing problems and helping people out, even if it means sometimes dealing with their literal crap, you know? Then there's Stella, my 26-year-old sister. She's currently in law school, and guess who's footing the bill? That's right, me. I've been covering her full tuition since day one. Her boyfriend was some hotshot doctor at the local hospital, a real piece of work, if you ask me, but we'll get to him later. So, this is where things really went sideways. About a week before Christmas, I got this call from my mother. Now, you gotta understand something about my mom. She never just calls to chat or see how I'm doing. It's always because she wants something, or there's some family drama that needs sorting out, usually involving money, to be frank. But this call felt different. She started off with this weird, hesitant tone, like she was about to tell me my dog had kicked the bucket. Then she just dropped the bomb on me. You're not invited to Christmas this year. Just like that. Out of the blue. No warning. No discussion. Nothing. At first, I thought I'd misheard her, like maybe she said they were changing the date or something. But nah. She went on to say that it might be best if I sat this one out because they wanted to keep things comfortable for everyone. I was just sitting there, thinking, what the actual heck? This was so out of left field. We've always celebrated Christmas together, even when I was busting my butt working long hours to get my business off the ground. Sure, my family has always been a bit weird about my job. They love the money I make, but God forbid they tell anyone what their son and brother does for a living. So I pushed her on it, asking, what's the real reason? She started humming and hawing, talking in circles about professional appearances and everyone's comfort, but she wouldn't give me a straight answer. It wasn't until later that day that I found out the real scoop from my cousin, Genesis. She'd overheard Stella talking about it with our mother earlier that week. Apparently, my wonderful sister had told our folks that having me for Christmas would be awkward because I didn't fit in with her and her boyfriend's professional standing. Let that sink in for a minute. My own sister, the one I've been helping through law school, was ashamed to have me at Christmas because I'm only a plumber. She was worried about how her fancy doctor partner would react to having to sit at the same table as someone who worked with their hands for a career. The more I thought about it, the more everything clicked into place. Like how Stella never invited me to any of her law school events, even though I was the one paying for her to go. Or how she always changed the subject when her friends asked what her brother did for a living. Or how she never introduced me to her boyfriend, even though they'd been together for nearly a year. And you know what the worst part was? My parents agreed with her. They actually thought it was okay to leave their own son out of Christmas because his job would make their precious daughter's boyfriend uncomfortable. The same son who's been helping out the family financially since he was 18. The same son who built his own successful business from scratch. The same son who's been paying for their golden child's law school education without a single complaint. My mother tried to sugarcoat it with lines like, well, honey, you know how these professional circles are, and maybe next year when you've developed your career more. What the heck does that even mean? I own my own business. I have employees. I earn 6 figures doing honest work. But apparently, it's not evolved enough because I don't wear a suit and tie to work. I spent the whole day just stewing over this information, getting more and more annoyed. Not the blow up, yelling kind of angry, but more like a cool, calm realization that my family, especially my sister, had been using me while secretly being ashamed of me the whole time. That's when I decided enough was enough. If I was too embarrassed to bring to Christmas dinner, then my money would be too embarrassing to spend on law school. What kind of message would it send to my sister's fancy boyfriend if he found out her law degree was paid for by a grease-passing plumber? But hold on, this is just the beginning. The real show started when I made the decision to actually do something. And let me tell you, karma is a real pain. Especially when it comes with a big student loan bill attached. Alright. So after finding out I was basically banned from Christmas because my job as a plumber would supposedly offend my sister's boyfriend's fancy sensibilities, my head was in a weird space. You know that feeling when you're so mad that you suddenly get super calm? That's exactly where I was. I spent the whole night going over old text messages and conversations with Stella, and man, the signs were everywhere. I was just too blind, or maybe too dumb, to see them before. For example, last spring, she had a party to celebrate finishing her first year of law school. I had literally paid for that entire year, but I never got an invite. When I asked her about it, she just brushed it off, saying it was just a small thing with her study group. Later, I saw on Facebook that it was actually a big shindig at a swanky restaurant downtown. Then there was that time she needed a new laptop for her classes. Even though I know a lot about computers, she told me to just send the money to her account instead of coming with her to pick it out. Nowadays, even in plumbing, we use tablets and special software to give quotes and schedule jobs, so it's not like I'm clueless. She claimed she was too busy to go shopping together, but now I'm pretty sure she just didn't want to be seen with her plumber brother at the Apple store. Looking back, it's kind of funny in a sad way. Like, whenever she needed cash, which was often, she'd text her embarrassing blue-collar brother, but when it came to acknowledging me in her new, fancy life, it was crickets. I decided to tap into the benefits of having a cousin who's still in the family group chat, bless her. So, Stella had been planning this Christmas exclusion for weeks. She'd told our parents that her boyfriend, Jose, yeah, his name's Jose, came from a really important family, and she was worried about making a good impression. Apparently, having a plumber for a sibling might hurt her career chances or some other snobby nonsense like that. Want to hear the real kicker? My cousin Genesis, bless her messy, drama-loving heart, sent me screenshots of Stella's comments from the family chat. She actually wrote, and I'm quoting directly here, "I just don't want Jose to think our family isn't, educated. It could affect how his family sees me. And they have so many connections in the legal world. Educated? Educated?" I wanted to fire back and tell her that the only reason she's getting an education is because her uneducated plumber brother pays $43,000 a year for her school. But I held back. I was starting to cook up a plan, and sometimes, you gotta play the long game. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't just about Christmas. This was about years of my family, especially Stella, treating me like some dirty little secret. They were happy to take my dirty plumber money, but God forbid they actually acknowledge how I earned it. Here's a cool fact about plumbing most people don't know: we have to study a lot, like years of apprenticeship, license exams, and constant training to keep up with new rules and tech. I probably spent more time studying water systems and building codes than Stella did studying tort law. But because I work with my hands, they treat me like an idiot who couldn't make it in the real professional world. The truth is, I chose plumbing because I'm good at it and I saw an opportunity. I started as an apprentice right out of high school, learned everything I could, got my licenses, and eventually started my own business. Now, I have 3 trucks on the road, 2 full-time employees, and more work than I can handle. But to my family, I'm still just the embarrassing brother who fixes toilet. I kept thinking about all the times I worked late or took extra jobs to make sure I could pay Stella's tuition. All those times I put off buying new stuff for myself or adding more to my retirement fund because family came first. Meanwhile, she was actively trying to hide me from her new boyfriend and his family. That's when my cousin dropped another bomb on me. Jose's family didn't seem all that bothered by stuff like that. His uncle, a successful contractor, had actually built their family house. Stella had just assumed they'd look down on me because that's how she saw me. I sat with all this information for a few days, keeping an eye on the family group chat through Genesis. They'd removed me from it weeks ago, supposedly to avoid any awkwardness around Christmas plans. Stella was going on and on about how excited she was to have Jose over for Christmas dinner, how his family had connections at all the big law firms in the city, and how this could be her chance to land a summer job through his contacts. Not one person stuck up for me the entire time. Not my parents, not any of my other relatives. Nobody said, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't exclude the guy who's been paying for Stella's entire education." Everyone was just thrilled about Stella potentially getting a fancy internship through her boyfriend's family. That's when I knew exactly what I needed to do. If they wanted to pretend they didn't have a plumber in the family, I'd help them make that lie a reality. Starting with Stella's tuition payments. So, after stewing over all this nonsense for a few days, I decided it was time to make my move. But here's the thing, I didn't want to just send an angry text or anything. I wanted to do it in a way that they couldn't twist my words or make me out to be the bad guy. Which, by the way, is my family's favorite pastime. I waited until I knew Stella's next tuition payment was coming due. It was due in about 2 weeks, and she always got super antsy around that time. Normally, she'd start dropping little hints about remembering the payment deadline, like, "Oh, the school's been sending reminder emails," or something. But this time, it was radio silence. She must have just figured the payment would come through like it always did, even after they'd kicked me out of Christmas. Quick side note, I had been paying the tuition directly to the school using their online portal. Stella had set it up herself when she first started and gave me all the login info, Which was super convenient since she basically saw me as her personal ATM, right? Anyway, I logged into the portal and saw my upcoming payment, $21,500 for the spring semester. That's when it really hit me how much money I'd been pouring into her studies while she was actively trying to hide me from her boyfriend. Do you know how many toilets you have to fix to make that kind of money? Answer: a whole lot more than most people think. So I called Stella. I didn't text her, nope. I called because I wanted to hear her voice when I dropped the bomb. She picked up on the third ring, sounding kinda annoyed, like I was interrupting something super important. "Hey," she said, in that tone that screams, "Make it quick. I'm kind of busy." "Oh, sorry," I shot back, trying to sound chill. "Just wanted to chat about your tuition payment. It's due soon, right?" Her voice changed instantly. Suddenly, she was all sweet and interested. "Oh, yeah, thanks for remembering. It's due on the 15th. You're still good to cover it, right?" "Actually," I replied, "I've been thinking about what you told Mom and Dad about Christmas. You know, about how having a plumber brother might make you look bad in front of Jose and his family." There was dead silence on her end. You could practically hear her brain trying to figure out how to spin this mess. "That's not. Who told you that?" She finally blurted out. "Does it matter?" I asked. "Is it true or not?" More quiet. Then she tried to go into damage control mode. "Listen, you don't get it. Jose's family, they're super particular about these things. His dad's a judge, his mom's on all these charity boards. I just thought it would be better if you pretended your brother doesn't exist because he's just a lowly plumber?" I finished for her. "That's not fair." She whined. "I never said that. I need them to take me seriously if I want a future in law. You know how these circles work." I couldn't help but let out a little laugh. "Actually, I don't know how these circles work. I'm just a plumber, remember? But you know what I do know? The exact amount I've paid for your law school so far." "Want me to break it down for you?" She started to say something, but I just kept going. "First year costs, $43,000. Second year, first semester cost, $21,500. Plus all the other stuff, your laptop, textbooks, and that special study program you just had to have. By my count, that's around $70,000 so far. All of it paid for by your embarrassing plumber brother." "Why are you acting like this?" she moaned. "You know how important this is for my future. Jose's family has connections at all the big shot firms. And having a plumber brother would ruin that, even though that plumber brother is the only reason you're in law school in the first place." I shot back. "You promised to help me," she cried. "You said you'd support my dreams." That's when I said it. "Yeah, I did. When you were proud to call me your brother. But if I'm too embarrassed to have Christmas dinner, then I guess my money should be too embarrassing to pay for your tuition." You guys, the screech that came out of her mouth sounded like a pterodactyl's tail being stepped on. "You can't do that," she yelled. "The payment is due in 2 weeks. What am I supposed to do?" "I don't know," I replied, feeling oddly peaceful. "Maybe ask Jose? I'm sure his fancy doctor's salary could cover it. Or is my dirty plumber money the only kind you're willing to touch?" She started crying, full-on dramatic sobbing. "Please," she begged. "I'll tell Mom and Dad I was wrong. You can come to Christmas. Just please don't do this to me." "Nope," I said. "I don't want to come to Christmas. I don't want to embarrass you in front of Jose and his family. In fact, I don't want anything to do with any of you anymore. Consider this my last payment to the family that's ashamed of me." I hung up while she was still bawling and pleading, and immediately blocked her phone number. I poured myself a drink and got ready for the incoming storm. After that, all hell broke loose. My mom was first. She called like 5 times in a row before I finally answered. The moment I picked up, she launched into her signature guilt trips. She was crying about how I was ruining the family and Stella's future over a silly misunderstanding. "Silly misunderstanding?" I asked. "She literally told you she was ashamed of what I do for a living. The same job that's been paying her tuition." "She didn't mean it like that," Mom explained. "You know how Stella is, she just gets caught up in trying to impress people sometimes. She looks up to you." I almost choked on my drink. She basically barred me from Christmas because she was mortified by me. How the heck is that looking up to me? Then Mom took a different angle. "Think about what this will do to her relationship with Jose. His family could really help her career." "Oh, so you want to talk about Jose?" I cut her off. "It's funny how important he and his family are. Yet your own son isn't even good enough to sit at the Christmas table." She started blubbering about how that wasn't what we meant and how I was taking everything too personally. Which is a classic mom move. trying to make me feel like I'm overreacting when they're the ones being nasty. When my dad called, he went straight for the angry approach, which wasn't a surprise. He started ranting about how I was being selfish and vengeful, even calling me a little man for jeopardizing Stella's education. Father of the year material, right? Let me get this straight, I told him. I'm a little man for not wanting to spend thousands of dollars on someone who is ashamed of me? Make it make sense, Dad. We raised you to be better than this. He hissed. Family supports family. I shot back. Really? Is that what you meant when you agreed to exclude me from Christmas? Was that being a supportive family? He tried to explain himself by claiming that sometimes we had to make sacrifices for the greater good of the family, which apparently included kissing Jose's butt in hopes he'd boost Stella's career. But what really hit me was that no one apologized for how they treated me during any of these calls. Instead, it was all about how I was the bad guy for standing up for myself, how I was being petty and vindictive, and how I was letting my pride get in the way of family. Then came the flying monkeys. My aunt called to tell me how disappointed she was in my behavior. My uncle texted saying I needed to man up and be the bigger person. And even my cousin Genesis, who spilled the beans about Stella's lies, messaged me saying maybe I was taking things too far. But you know what? None of them offered to help pay Stella's tuition themselves. The best part? Stella actually went and told Jose what was going on. And I guess she thought he'd offer to help with the tuition. Instead, according to Genesis, who's still keeping me updated on all the tea, Jose got really quiet and started asking questions like, why hadn't Stella ever mentioned she had a brother? Why didn't she introduce them? Why did her brother pay for her law school in the first place? Jose couldn't wrap his head around why Stella would keep her brother's existence hidden just because he was a plumber. It turned out that his uncle, the one who built their family home, started as a plumber before becoming a contractor, and Jose had actually worked summers with him in high school. When Stella tried to explain her reasoning, she just dug herself a deeper hole. She started rambling about professional appearances and social circles. And Jose got more and more upset, saying he couldn't believe she'd hide and disrespect her own brother, who'd been supporting her education, just for some perceived social status. Jose told her the next day that he needed time to think about their relationship because her actions revealed a side of her personality that he didn't like. Who knew he had principles? Meanwhile, my parents were constantly blowing up my phone. Mom alternated between crying and begging. Dad between cursing and threatening. Stella kept calling from other numbers after I blocked hers, and I eventually just turned off my phone for a few days. It was all about how I was ruining everything by not just shutting up and paying like a good little ATM, but I was done being their ATM. If standing up for myself made me the bad guy in their eyes, so be it. It was better than being their doormat. After a few days, Jose showed up at Stella's apartment. She probably thought he was there to make things right, but nah, he dumped her. He told her he couldn't be with someone who'd treat their own brother like that, especially someone who had helped them out so much. He said it made him question her values and who she really was deep down. Stella totally lost it and called me, crying and yelling, from yet another new number. She's had more burner phones than a drug dealer by this point. She said I'd ruined everything. That Jose broke up with her because of me. That her life was falling apart, and it was all my fault. I just chuckled and replied, no, sis, Jose ended things with you after finding out your true colors. I just stopped helping you hide it. She threatened to tell everyone I had sexually assaulted her in high school, that she'd report my business to the Better Business Bureau for fraud, and that everyone would know what a terrible brother I was. Go for it, I told her. Tell everyone your brother's a monster because he checks notes, paid for your education while you tried to hide his existence. See how that works out for you. Then she went back to begging, crying about how she couldn't afford law school without me, how she'd have to drop out, how she'd lose all her friends, and how her life would be over. Guess you should have thought about that before you decided I was too embarrassing to acknowledge, I responded. Then I hung up. After Jose ditched her, Stella had a complete meltdown. According to Genesis, she started showing up at our parents' house at random times, bawling about how her life was over. She had apparently told all her law school buddies that her boyfriend was going to help her with tuition, so when he dumped her instead, she was totally screwed. The deadline for the tuition payment was getting close, and she still hadn't figured out what to do. She tried applying for emergency loans, but guess what? Those take time to process, and she waited way too long. Plus, she'd need someone to co-sign, and our parents' credit is a hot mess. I wonder why. They always try to live beyond their means. Genesis texted me, Colorado DE read. Stella just posted on Facebook that she's heading to your shop to make you face what you're doing to her. She looks pretty unhinged. I barely had time to warn my guys before she burst through the door like a hurricane in fancy clothes. Hair all messed up, mascara smeared, full-on crazy ex-girlfriend vibes. Except she was my sister. How could you do this to me? She screamed in front of my whole crew and about 3 customers. I'm your sister. You're supposed to take care of me. I tried to get her to go outside or at least calm down, but she seemed set on causing a scene. You are messing up my life, she yelled. All because your precious feelings got hurt. You're so selfish. One of my customers, a sweet old lady who'd been coming to us for years, stood up. Young lady, she asked. Is this the brother who's been paying for your education? Stella spun around like she'd been slapped. That's none of your business. Well, the elderly lady added, you just made it everyone's business by stomping in here yelling. And from what I'm hearing, you cut your brother out of Christmas because you were ashamed of his job. But you still expect him to pay for your schooling? In my neck of the woods, that's called biting the hand that feeds you. The look on Stella's face. She honestly didn't know how to deal with someone outside the family calling her out on her nonsense. But she recovered quickly and switched to crying. Like full-blown dramatic sobbing. You don't understand. She wailed. He's doing this to punish me. He's trying to mess up my future because he's jealous of my success. I couldn't help but laugh. What success? Stella, the success of convincing your boyfriend to dump you? The success of maybe having to drop out of law school? The success of embarrassing yourself in front of my staff and customers? At least I'm trying to make something of myself. She fired back. Not just playing with pipes all day like some. She stopped herself, probably realizing she was about to badmouth plumbing in front of a bunch of actual plumbers. My main guy, Caleb, a big dude who's been with me since I started the business, stepped up and said, Ma'am, in a really serious tone, I think you should leave now. For the past 5 years, your brother's pipe playing has put food on my family's table. It paid for my kids' braces and my wife's car, and it seems like it paid for your law school, too. So maybe show some respect. Stella looked around and realized she wasn't getting the reaction she wanted. Everyone was staring at her like she was nuts, which, to be fair, she was. She tried one more time. Fine, I'll tell everyone what kind of brother you really are. I'll post about it all over social media. Go ahead, I urged. Just make sure you include the part where you had me banned from Christmas because you were embarrassed by my job, but still expected me to pay your tuition. I'm sure that'll get you a lot of sympathy. She stormed off after that, but not before knocking down our sign and clipboard and kicking a display of business cards off the counter. Real mature, sis. The elderly customer came over to me after Stella left, patted my arm, and said, You know, my late husband was a plumber. Put all 3 of our kids through college. They never once felt ashamed of what he did for a living. Then she looked me straight in the eyes and said, You're doing the right thing, honey. Sometimes family members have to learn the hard way that respect goes both ways. After that whole scene, I had to sit down with my staff and explain the situation, and they were surprisingly cool about it. Caleb even joked that his family's Thanksgiving drama seemed boring by comparison. So, after that whole blow-up at my shop, Stella decided to go full-on scorched earth. She started calling every single member of our extended family, telling them this tear-jerker about how her mean brother was trying to wreck her future just to be petty. But here's the thing about family drama, everyone loves a good gossip session, but nobody actually wants to help. First up was Aunt Addison, yeah, her name fits perfectly, who got all up in my business about family duty and how selfish I was. This is the same aunt who hit me up for $5,000 3 years ago for emergency teeth work and never paid me back. The chat went something like this. How could you do this to your sister? She demanded. She's trying to make something of herself. Funny, I shot back. I don't remember you offering to help pay for her law school. You still owe me for your choppers, by the way. Crickets. Total silence. That's totally different. She sputtered. How dare you bring that up? Is it, though? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, this whole family loves to talk a big game about helping each other out, until it's actually time to cough up some real help. Then, suddenly, everyone's gone quiet. She hung up on me after that. Guess the truth is a bit harder than those teeth did. Then came Uncle Isaac, my dad's brother. He's this guy who thinks he's hot stuff, always bragging about his investments but never seems to have cash when the dinner bill comes. And he tried to give me a lecture about family investments. Think of it as putting money into your sister's future, he told me. When she's a successful lawyer, she'll totally be able to help you out. I nearly busted a gut laughing. Help me out? She couldn't even stand to have me at Christmas dinner because I'm a plumber. But sure, Tell me more about how she'll be my savior once she's rolling in dough. Well, he said, maybe you could just help her finish school. And then she could pay you back. Awesome idea. I shot back. Why don't you lend her the money then? You're always going on about your amazing investments. Here's a chance to invest in your own family. He suddenly had to bail. It's wild how often that happens. The kicker was, nobody who called to make me feel bad actually offered to help Stella themselves. They all had strong opinions on how I should spend my money, but their own pockets stayed zipped. I'm totally done with her, and I'll let you all know if anything else goes down. Final update. So, my sister got me kicked out of Christmas because I'm just a plumber, and in return, I cut off her law school money. Hey everyone, thought I'd drop one last update since so many of you have been hitting me up asking what went down. I heard through the grapevine that my sister showed up at her ex-boyfriend's house, totally uninvited, and tried to chat up Jose's folks. She gave them this whole pity party story about how she was about to lose everything and needed a hand, but she conveniently left out the part about hiding me because I'm a plumber. Jose was clearly there and laid out the whole truth. But his dad, the judge, apparently looked at her and said, "Young lady, if you're aiming to be a lawyer, you should know that trying to play people by telling half-truths isn't a great way to kick off your career." In the end, she had to drop out of law school because she couldn't get private loans without someone to co-sign. And after all the drama, nobody in the family was willing to put their name on the line. When Grandma stepped in and told them they should be embarrassed, even my parents stopped bugging me for help. Stella is now working as a paralegal at some small law firm, according to Genesis. She says it's just temporary until she can go back to law school, but we all know that's probably not happening. As for me, business is booming, stronger than ever. I've actually added 2 more trucks and hired 4 new guys. I still grab beers with Jose and his uncle Caleb sometimes, and it turns out we actually get along great when there's no family drama in the mix. My parents tried to smooth things over around Thanksgiving, but only because they needed help with their house payment. I said no, and told them that maybe they should ask their successful lawyer daughter for help. Oh, right. The funny thing is, I actually feel a lot better now that everything's out in the open. No more faking it. No more being the family ATM. No more tiptoeing around my job. Just me, my thriving business, and my real friends who don't care one bit what I do for a living. Thanks for all the support, Internet fam. Sometimes you just need strangers online to confirm you're not crazy for sticking up for yourself. Edit. Holy smokes. This thing blew up. Thanks for all the props and to everyone who messaged me about needing a plumber in my area. Sorry, trying to stay low-key here. Edit 2. To everyone saying I ruined my sister's life. Nah. She did that herself. I just stopped paying. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do it, and hit that notification bell to keep up with more wild real-life stories happening all around you. Alright, so after all that craziness, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: don't let anyone, not even your own family, make you feel small or ashamed of who you are or what you do for a living. My job as a plumber might not be glamorous to some, but it's honest work, it's skillful, and it's put food on my table and paid for a whole lot more, including my sister's law school. I spent years being the family ATM, letting them take my money while they secretly, and then openly, disrespected me. What I found out is that true family support isn't just about handing over cash, it's about respect, plain and simple. If people are only willing to use you for what you can give them, but they're ashamed to acknowledge you, then that's not real family. Sometimes, you gotta stand up for yourself, even if it means shaking things up and letting people see the truth. Because in the end, pretending everything is fine just hurts you more. So, what do you all think? Have you ever had to deal with family drama like this, where you felt disrespected or used? I'm curious to hear your take on my story and if you've ever had to draw a line in the sand with your own family. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.